Imagine you are sitting right there in Lumen Field in Seattle. It is match day 1 of the 2026 World Cup. You are watching the warm-ups. The stadium is absolutely buzzing.
Oh, yeah. The tension at those openers is just palpable.
Exactly. And down on the pitch, Mohamed Salah goes into a standard 10-yard sprint. But suddenly, he slows down, he winces, he reaches back and grabs his hamstring for just a fraction of a second.
Which is pretty much the ultimate nightmare scenario.
Right. In that single fleeting moment, you have to ask yourself, did the hopes of 110 million people just evaporate before the referee even blew the starting whistle? I mean, that is the razor-thin margin of error we are dealing with today in our deep dive into Group G.
It really is a terrifying level of fragility because when you look at the composition of Group G, Belgium, Egypt, Iran, and New Zealand, you are essentially looking at a psychological pressure cooker.
Oh, 100%.
You have one aging Goliath trying to outrun Father Time, paired with 3 underdogs who have collectively, in the entire history of their federations, never advanced past a World Cup group stage.
And look, as the self-appointed Armchair Galáctico of this deep dive, I am telling you right now that navigating this group doesn't require some fancy UEFA Pro license.
I wouldn't go quite that far, but sure.
No, I mean it. My tactical command center is a microfiber sectional, and my athletic peak was riding the left bench in a middle school intramural league. But you don't need to be Pep Guardiola to see the structural fault lines in these teams. You just need to know where to press.
Right. Finding the pressure points.
Exactly. And our mission today is to find those pressure points. We're going to look past the Opta supercomputer percentages, dig into the actual mechanics on the pitch, and expose the fatal flaws that will decide who makes history and who goes home early.
Well, the best place to start looking for those structural fault lines is actually at the very top. I mean, if you want to understand the monumental opportunity sitting in front of Egypt, Iran, and New Zealand, you have to understand the specific mechanical failures happening within Rudy Garcia's Belgium.
Yeah, the so-called favorites.
Right, because the Opta supercomputer gives Belgium an 89.6% chance to advance, which, looks incredibly intimidating on a spreadsheet.
But spreadsheets don't have to sprint for 90 minutes. I look at their plan A, and it is entirely built on the fading embers of a golden generation that barely saw the pitch this year.
The mileage on those legs is a real concern.
We are talking about a core of 30-somethings. Romelu Lukaku played 7 club matches for Napoli all season. 7.
Yeah, that lack of match fitness is glaring.
He scored exactly 1 goal across all competitions before that Croatia warm-up. And Kevin De Bruyne, the absolute engine of this entire system, was limited to 13 league starts.
And this isn't just about fatigue either. It fundamentally alters their tactical geometry.
How so?
Well, think of Belgium's attacking system like a high-end computer. Kevin De Bruyne's brain is an overclocked processor, right? He sees passing lanes before they even open.
He's a genius on the ball, yeah.
But football requires the physical components to keep up with the software. When your primary targets, like Lukaku, are lacking match sharpness, they lose that half step of explosive pace.
Ah, so there's a lag.
Exactly. It's a physical lag time. De Bruyne processes the data and sends the perfect through ball, but the window closes a fraction of a second too early because the legs on the receiving end simply aren't firing at peak capacity.
Which is why throwing Jeremy Doku out on the wing is Rudy Garcia's desperation play, right? To add some RAM to that system. They need his raw, terrifying pace just to stretch the field.
They absolutely rely on Doku for that vertical threat now.
But I have to push back on the whole psychological narrative surrounding this team. I mean, we have heard the one last shot, the last dance storyline for Belgium for 3 straight tournaments now.
It is a recurring theme, I'll give you that.
Every 4 years, we hear that the sheer desperation of a closing window will propel them to glory. But in my experience, watching from the couch, carrying that suffocating burden of unfulfilled potential usually paralyzes a team.
It definitely can.
It makes them grip the steering wheel way too tight. So why should we believe desperation is a tactical advantage this time?
Well, usually it isn't. Desperation breeds predictability. But Belgium possesses one highly specific safety net that prevents that paralysis from resulting in early elimination, and that is Thibaut Courtois.
The Wall himself.
Exactly. Trusting that we all know his pedigree, let's look at how he actually changes the mechanics of the game. Belgium's central defenders are not winning any foot races. So a high defensive line should, theoretically, be suicidal for them.
Right. Opponents should just be dropping balls over the top all day long.
Precisely. But Courtois plays with such an aggressive sweeping radius that he effectively shrinks the pitch for the opposition.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he allows a slow defensive line to cheat forward, which compresses the midfield and helps mitigate the fact that De Bruyne and Lukaku can't press for 90 minutes.
That makes a lot of sense. So he's covering their physical flaws.
Yeah. He doesn't just stop shots. His positioning deters the very counterattacks that underdog teams rely on. He creates a tactical floor so high that you cannot just absorb pressure and hope for a lucky break against them. You have to actively bypass their midfield and isolate their center backs in space.
Okay, well, if Courtois is allowing a slow defense to play high, then the blueprint to beat them is blinding transition speed. You need a team whose entire identity is built on bypassing the midfield, isolating defenders, and punishing tired legs.
Which brings us beautifully to the team engineered to do exactly that.
Hossam Hassan's Egypt.
Right. Opta gives Egypt a 68.2% chance of advancing, making them the statistical favorites to grab that crucial second spot. And tactically, Hossam Hassan has really evolved this squad.
They aren't just sitting back anymore, right?
Exactly. They've moved away from being a purely defensive, low-block team that just prays for a miracle on the counter.
They have genuine firepower now. Omar Marmoush brings serious Premier League intensity from Manchester City.
His work rate is phenomenal.
And Hassan even brought in Hamza Abdelkarim, an 18-year-old kid from Barcelona's U19s, which shows he's willing to inject some unpredictable chaos into the system.
It's a bold move for a major tournament.
And hovering over all of this is the cinematic storyline of Mohamed Salah. He is the captain, and he is sitting exactly 2 goals away from breaking the all-time Egyptian national scoring record. A record of 69 goals held by, get this, his own head coach, Hossam Hassan.
It adds incredible emotional weight to every match they play.
It really has.
But, all of this tactical evolution, all of this attacking potential with Marmoush and Abdelkarim, it all hinges entirely on the mechanism of Salah's gravity on the pitch. Which brings us back to the scenario you painted at the beginning.
The late-season hamstring strain, the 110 million person hamstring.
That's the one. Let's say he is playing at 85 or 90%.
Right, and as a viewer, I might think, well, an 85% Salah is still better than almost anyone else on the pitch. But how does that missing 15% physically break down Hossam Hassan's tactical blueprint?
It changes the entire structural geometry of their attack. When Salah is fully fit, his defining trait is the threat of his run-in behind the defense.
Because he's just so fast.
Yes. The opposition's left back and left-sided center back are forced to drop 5 yards deeper just to respect that threat. That creates a massive pocket of space in the midfield.
I see where this is going.
But if Salah is nursing a hamstring, he subconsciously protects it. He stops making those penetrating sprints. Instead, he drops deeper into the half spaces to receive the ball at his feet.
And suddenly the defense doesn't have to retreat. They can step up.
They step up, they compress the space, and suddenly Marmoush is completely isolated up top. The opposition can double-team the wings without fear of getting burned over the top. The entire pitch shrinks.
Wow. Just from one player hesitating.
Furthermore, there is the psychological contagion. The other 10 men on the pitch are looking to their talisman. If they sense he is hesitant, that hesitation spreads.
Like a domino effect.
Exactly. Midfielders hold on to the ball a half second longer before playing a through pass because they aren't sure if Salah will chase it. And that half second is the difference between a goal and a turnover at the World Cup.
So Egypt's fatal flaw is a physical vulnerability that instantly triggers a tactical collapse. But while Egypt is sweating the structural integrity of a single muscle, our next contender is dealing with a gaping hole where a superstar should be.
Yes, the battle for second place is quite complicated.
Let's pivot to that battle and examine a team carrying massive off-field trauma. Armchair Galáctico's Iran.
Mathematically, Iran is breathing right down Egypt's neck. They have a 64.3% probability of advancing.
Very close.
They boast a very experienced core, anchored by the 33-year-old Mehdi Taremi, who just delivered a 10-goal qualifying campaign for Olympiacos. They also have the veteran leadership of Alireza Jahanbakhsh.
Yeah, on paper, their attacking profile looks perfectly suited to grind out results in a short tournament.
It really does.
But we cannot look at Iran's tactical blueprint without addressing the massive 57-goal elephant not in the room, Sardar Azmoun. He is their second highest scorer in history, an absolute icon of the national team, and he is sitting at home.
It's a massive story.
Now, let's be very clear for the listeners. We are not taking sides on the internal federation drama. We are just looking at the fallout.
Right, purely analytical.
Azmoun was left off the squad due to a disciplinary row and perceived disloyalty. It's a situation so messy that the country's vice president was publicly pleading for his reinstatement. But what we need to dissect is the actual vacuum this creates on the pitch. Because missing 57 international goals is bad, but heading into a World Cup with a splintered dressing room feels terminal.
It introduces a highly destructive variable, which is internal game theory. When a massive figure like Asmoun is exiled for non-injury reasons, the dressing room fractures into factions.
Yeah, natural.
You have the older veterans who might feel they lost their co-star, and you have the younger players who suddenly feel immense pressure to overperform to prove their loyalty to the manager's system.
Which completely undermines tactical discipline. I mean, we spend all this time analyzing whether a team is playing a 4-3-3 or a 3-5-2. But if the players are trying to prove a point rather than execute the system, does the whiteboard even matter?
It renders the whiteboard virtually useless. Let's look at how Taremi operates. He thrives as a target man, occupying center backs so players like Asmoun can exploit the spaces he creates.
But Asmoun isn't there.
Right. Without Asmoun to draw away a defender, opposing defenses will just double-team Taremi. To compensate, those eager younger players in the Iranian midfield will try to force the issue. They will break out of their defensive shape to join the attack prematurely.
So they start pressing chaotically instead of as a cohesive unit.
Exactly. And in tournament football, chaotic pressing is a death sentence. A World Cup group stage is a pressure cooker.
Oh, without a doubt.
When you inevitably face adversity, say Belgium scores a deflecting goal in the 12th minute, a unified team falls back on their structured shape. A splintered team panics. Players point fingers.
So it's not just the missing goals.
No, the tactical void of Asmoun's goals is significant, but the emotional volatility of a divided squad is what actually causes the collapse.
And this leads me perfectly to my absolute favorite dynamic in Group G. Because if you have a team like Iran, carrying the weight of internal drama, prone to chaotic pressing and emotional overreactions, who is the absolute worst type of opponent they could face?
I think I know where you're going with this.
A team that carries zero pressure, knows exactly who they are, and thrives on frustrating, overeager opponents. Enter the Oceania outliers. New Zealand.
The All-Whites really represent a fascinating contrast in this group. They are the lowest-ranked side in the entire 48-team tournament, sitting at 85th in the world.
Just happy to be there almost.
Well, they secured Oceania's first-ever direct World Cup berth. And the supercomputer is completely ruthless with them. It gives them a 52.2% chance of being eliminated at the group stage.
I mean, their fatal flaw is the easiest one to identify. Player for player, they are outmatched by everyone else in the group. Outside of their captain, Chris Wood, who had a phenomenal 20-goal season for Nottingham Forest, they lack proven elite-level goal scorers.
That is true. But what Darren Baisley has instilled in this squad is radical acceptance of their limitations. They don't try to play expansive, possession-based football.
They know their lane.
Exactly. They operate in a deep, rigid, low block. Players like fullbacks Tyler Bindon and Liberato Kakashi are highly disciplined. They set up two banks of four, they narrow the channels, and they basically dare you to break them down.
Which is why I am ready to deliver the ultimate Armchair Galáctico hyper-specific hot take. Consider yourself warned.
Let's hear it.
I am looking right past the 25,000 simulations that say New Zealand is going home with 0 points. I am telling you, New Zealand is going to engineer a moment of pure, unadulterated chaos, and they are going to do it against Iran.
Okay, walk me through the mechanics of how that happens.
It's the perfect storm of psychology and tactics. Picture the final 10 minutes of their match. Iran knows they need 3 points to keep pace with Egypt. The score is tied 0-0.
Setting the scene, I like it.
Because of that internal factionalism we just talked about, the Iranian players start panicking. The midfield abandons the game plan and pushes dangerously high up the pitch, desperately trying to force a goal.
Leaving gaps behind.
Exactly. They leave massive acres of space behind their center backs. New Zealand wins a sloppy turnover. They hit a single, booming 40-yard clearance perfectly into that space. Chris Wood, who has been quietly leaning on exhausted defenders for 80 minutes, wins a physical mismatch, gets him behind, and scores the ultimate smash-and-grab goal.
Wow.
It completely detonates the math of Group G, and Wood ascends to the throne as the ultimate tournament spoiler.
You know, from a purely analytical standpoint, that is a textbook trap game scenario. When a heavily favored team is burdened by internal pressure and desperate for a result, they violate their own defensive principles.
They just overcommit.
They do overcommit. New Zealand's entire low block philosophy is designed to act like a coiled spring. They absorb the pressure, wait for the opponent to overextend their defensive line, and then release all that tension in one direct transition sequence.
And Wood is the perfect guy for that.
Wood's sheer physical dominance in the air makes him the perfect focal point for that exact sequence. It is an incredibly plausible tactical trap.
The couch does not lie. I'm locking that prediction in right now.
Yeah.
So let's zoom out and look at the whole board. Assuming Belgium's vintage machinery survives the group stage, they're likely taking the top spot.
Well, it's your fist bet, yeah.
And we have New Zealand hovering in the weeds, ready to trigger a trapdoor on an unsuspecting victim. That means the entire narrative of Group G funnels down to one specific date and one specific location. Match Day 3, June 26th at Lumen Field in Seattle. Egypt versus Iran.
It is the ultimate collision course. A straight shootout for second place between two nations desperate to break decades of group stage failure.
You're going to have the sheer attacking pace of Marmouche and whatever is left of Salah's hamstring trying to crack open an Iranian defense that might be held together by sheer willpower and Taremi's hold-up play.
It's going to be a fascinating clash of styles.
Every single psychological factor we have discussed, the physical fragility, the locker room divides, the crushing weight of national expectations, it will all be compressed into those 90 minutes.
The tactical adjustments in that game will be fascinating. If Egypt scores early, does Iran's fragile unity shatter, or does it galvanize them into a relentless high press?
Right.
And if the game is tied late, who blinks first and abandons their defensive shape?
It is going to be magnificent chaos. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over while you map out your tournament brackets. Let's go back to that hypothetical scenario in Seattle. It is the 89th minute. Egypt is tied with Iran. Mohamed Salah receives the ball on the edge of the box. He drops his shoulder, cuts inside onto his left foot, and buries the ball in the top corner.
Absolute pandemonium in the stands.
The stadium erupts. The goal officially sends Egypt to the World Cup knockouts for the first time in their history. But that exact goal is also Salah's 70th international goal.
Oh, wow.
It is the exact goal that erases his head coach, Hossam Hassan, from the top of the all-time national scoring record. Imagine being Hossam Hassan standing on that touchline in that exact second.
That is quite the dilemma.
The camera zooms in on your face. Do you immediately throw your hands up, celebrating the historic, unprecedented progression of the country you lead? Or, in the deep, quiet, primal recesses of a striker's ego, do you feel a momentary pang of grief for the loss of your own legendary record?
That is the ultimate collision of national glory and personal legacy, the duality of human nature exposed on the biggest stage in the world.
It is the kind of drama you simply cannot script, and it's why we spend hours analyzing every angle from the comfort of our living rooms. We will have to wait until June to see how the psychology actually unfolds on the pitch. But for now, the couch has officially spoken.
It certainly has.
I want you to take all these tactical blueprints, all these fatal flaws, and lock in your own Group G predictions. Head over to bracketmachine.app right now and use the challenge code Z9U8XX to set up your bracket. Let's see if your tactical command center is as sharp as mine. Keep your hamstrings stretched, respect the low block, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.